Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are outside of Branson, Missouri at the Shepherd of the Hills Hatchery. And this is one that I've been coming to since I was a tiny little wee tot, and I wanted to bring you guys along. Now I remember coming here and being able to look at the fish runs and seeing all the tiny little fish, and it got me so excited. And so today, as we're visiting this, I wanted to share that memory with you, but also show you why places like this are so important. So let's go. Before we go inside, of course, we always check out all the signage, and this one right here says it all. 37 locations use this location for their restocking, and that includes 1.6 million fish annually. That is insane. But think of all the different places that could be benefited by places like this. Now we're going to go inside and find out a little bit more though. Now this is pretty cool, guys. You can actually scan the QR code and watch the hatchery video on your phone. That's pretty neat. Despite my better judgment, we're going in here where this snake skin is. There are also aquariums, terrariums, and other crazy things, so this should be interesting. Now, for anyone unfamiliar with my channel, I do not like snakes. They petrify me, so some of these could be kind of iffy when we get over there, and it just is what it is, guys. I'm super sorry. Now this is a great resource though, however, because we get to see some of the smaller things that we wouldn't normally see, probably, like all of these different kinds of crayfish. And you can see what the difference between each one is because they're all side to side. Not to mention it tells you a little bit more about them on the side here, like the color, the range, the size, and other comments about each one of these. They also have some really cool bird nests in here. In fact, you can see all of the different birds that they have found in this region and see how they construct their little nests and homes. And then above each one, there is a photo. So it kind of gives you an idea as to how the tiniest of tiny versus the largest of large happen to shape up. Now, this is a great place to bring your kiddos because they can learn about all of these things. But I personally, as an adult, also enjoy it because it's neat to see how the different nests are built, for example, and how they use what's around them in a very resourceful way. Not to mention, I did ask someone here, that wall, that one over there, all snakes. We're not going there, guys. We're just not going there. Now, a lot of people think that seeing the change of the season is simply because of the frost that comes in the morning, but there's a lot more to it, and this explains all of that, and it's so well done that you definitely will have some brain wrinkles leaving here, that is for sure. But also, I like that they have these little pieces down here where you can kind of line up and see what you might be seeing in this particular area and what color it is. That is really helpful. They also have a display board of the different places that you can hike in this area to see some of those leaves, but also to see some of the beauty of this area, including the Ruth and Paul Henning Conservation Area, where I actually have hiked in two different sections of this, one of which I have a video on my channel. Go check that out. Also, they have the Shepherd of the Hills Hatchery map here, and it shows you that you have several different structures and buildings. They're all kind of marked here, but there's also some small trails that you can go on. Now, something moved in one of these. I don't know which one, but it is definitely a turtle, so we can look inside and find out. Let's see. I think it's this guy. Yeah, there he is. He's in the back. Now this guy right here, his name is Brad Wright. He is from Branson, and he is holding a 25.35 pound record-breaking brown trout, which he caught on Lake Taneycomo in 1998. Now it's kind of interesting because here they also have a replica of the jig that he actually used to catch that big boy, and it was tiny, tiny, tiny. It just goes to show that sometimes your bait doesn't have to be huge to catch something massive. And then of course here is the world record angling achievement, and that is quite a feat right there. Now, as we continue to look through the displays, this is actually kind of a sad one right here. This shows that litter can hurt wildlife, and so often we hear about clipping these kind of tabs, but a lot of times we don't think of what it can do. Well, if you look, this is actually a turtle that had gotten stuck in one, and it affected him greatly. But that turtle actually lives right here, and you can see him in person to see just what it did to the poor turtle. Now, a lot of times we don't think about the consequences of our actions until we see something like this, but this little girl right here actually is the one who found the turtle, and she shows that it was in 2015, so it's still living, it's still okay, but they were able to rescue it, so that's good. Now, along this wall, it tells you a little bit more about the entire process of the fish going from eggs to krill. And it's kind of interesting because it all has photos, so you can kind of see size references and see how different stages of the lifespan happen. And it's really fascinating because they have some really cool information here. So if you've ever wondered how this process works, this is a good one. Now inside this tank display, there are two different kinds of trout. They have rainbow and brown trout. And you can see the difference with how when they're swimming, the water like reflects off of them, so you can see the colors, but also you can learn a little bit more about the males versus the females, because along this row right here, it tells you a little bit more about all of the different really interesting fun facts. And one of the things that I thought was super cool was this. As we're looking through the tank, we'll see this little hook, and this hook indicates that this is a male fish versus the female fish that looks like this right here. Notice no hook. So if we're looking into the tank, this is an easy way for us to determine which is which. Now, they aren't born with this though. They actually develop it at the 2.5 to 3 year mark, and so it just starts to protrude at that point, which is kind of fascinating. Also, another fun fact, the fish like to fight. That's right, they like to fight it out, and you can kind of see that as they're swimming along. One will just flop over and kind of start something, a little tussle, and then others will respond. Now, following a good look at the display tank and everything that's inside, we now have some idea as to what to expect when we come out to the raceways. But this is one of the larger hatcheries I have been to, and oh my goodness, raceways as far as the eye can see. That's right, all of these have fish in them, and you can see them just stirring around. And as we kind of progress throughout, you're gonna see different sizes. Now, one of the things that I learned while I was inside is that the average trout can live up to 10 years. So this is just the humble beginnings of where it all starts for many of our areas that we find trout in Missouri. It's kind of interesting, it's pretty fascinating, and it definitely smells a little fishy. Inside this one, you can see some of the smaller fish. They're really tiny, but there's so many of them. Look at them just flopping around in there. Now, the fish don't start out here in the raceway though. They actually spend the first 5 months of their lives inside of the hatchery building. About 90,000 3-inch trout are put into these raceways, and as they grow, the pools become more and more crowded. Now, those 5-inch fish become 7-inch fish, and whenever they do, they split the raceway, and approximately 45,000 fish are in each raceway. Now, the 9-inch fish at that point come out and go somewhere else, and it's a progression, so there's a continuous monitoring of what's going on inside of each one of these, and it's just fascinating to see. Now, it takes about 16 to 20 months for them to get to an 11-inch size, and once they do, they are then released into the various points, a lot of which go right back into Lake Taneycomo, which is adjoining to the dam over here. Speaking of which, this dam is what made all of this possible. In fact, in around 1958, that's whenever the hatchery itself became a reality. That's right after the completion of Table Rock Dam. Now, believe it or not, this actually was once a raceway. In fact, before the more modern raceways that they currently have, these were earthen raceway pools that were used as a part of the original hatchery. Now, these are actually still used, but in a very different way. You can see this one that is almost entirely empty, and this one which is much more full. These are used to help control water quality and are used as settling ponds for removing wastewater. Of course, one of the most popular things to do here at the hatchery is to feed the fish. And you can see that the professionals actually have a variety of different feeds that they put out. And it is quite a job. In fact, about 1,500 pounds of food is required daily to maintain the upkeep of all of the different raceways. But also, if you do happen to bring a quarter, guess what, guys? You can feed them too. They have little dispensers that are located just by the raceways where you can get some and then drop it into the tanks and watch them go. Now, if you have ever wondered how they get the fish out, well, it's quite a task to do it. In fact, they kind of herd them to the end of the pool, and then they are netted, placed in a basket, and then they are raised using a massive hydraulic arm. From there, they actually weigh them, and they are calculated. Raceways are also cleaned pretty frequently, and here you can see what it looks like. They actually take the water completely out, and then somebody has to get up in there and really scrub. They want to make sure that the water levels are lowered slightly at the pools, and then they are swept completely clean, and then after that they are able to divert the fish waste to a dirt bank in the settling ponds that we just looked at. Now, we've been talking about these being called raceways, but why are they called raceways? Raceway is actually a term used by hatcheries to describe a pool of moving water. It's racing, literally, guys. It's 12 feet wide usually and have about 2.5 feet in water in them. And because they move the way they do, it keeps the cold circulating water moving to a comfortable temperature for the fish, even on the hottest of days. Now, I'm sure you have seen in my playlist where I went to a hatchery that was in Colorado, and it looked a little bit different than this. In fact, there was no top. So you might be thinking, oh, it's there so that people don't drop things inside. No, it is not. It is here so that during the winter months they can cover these to keep the snow from getting inside and making it too cold. They also have it where they can cover it during the extremes of heat so that it can provide a little bit of a shade shelter for the fish also, because the fish like to go to the places that aren't always the sunny, super hot places. So this is kind of cool to be able to see in person. Did you know that the water from this hatchery actually comes directly from Table Rock? It comes from the very bottom and is piped in through the dam, and the water temperatures vary from 42 to 55 degrees at any point in time. Fish need quality water, and it goes through a series of aerations that help it to make it into these raceways. In other words, all of these things here on the end are pumping oxygen into the water so that the fish can survive and thrive. But all of that water is coming directly from right over here. In fact, this is Table Rock Dam, and this is the back side, so it doesn't look like it's anything super exciting, but on the other side you will find the beautiful crisp water of Table Rock. The dam makes all this possible. It is there and helps them to run a pipe directly to the bottom where it is the coolest temperature and get it directly over here so that these fish can all thrive, which helps with recreation. It helps with other things like food in the area, stuff like that. And so that's pretty cool. Now, around the hatchery you'll find numerous things that say keep off and keep out, and that's because these are all little hatches that allow them to access the raceways a bit more easily. Not to mention there are little catwalks like these so that they can do feedings and maintenance and things like that. Also, lots of little grates like these. Part of it is because of flood control. Part of it is also because this helps move the water from place to place. Now this raceway is different than the others. It does not have a cover on the top of it, and inside you will find some of the larger fish that are still in this area. Some of these fish are a part of the brood stock being what they use to repopulate the fish in this region. And this is called the spawning shed that we're actually looking at right now. And this is where they collect all the eggs in the adult fish. Now, I have always known Taneycomo to be one of the most popular places to come to fish for trout. However, I now know that between 20,000 and 80,000 fish are released every single month into this region. And because of that, of course the fishermen are gonna come here. Their chances of catching something that is absolutely spectacular are much higher in this region as a result. Now, something else kind of cool though is that all of those licenses and permits that you have to get to do the fishing, those actually help pay for places like this that restock those very fish that you're out there recreating and catching. And something else very fascinating, trout are actually not native to Missouri, so the only way that they can have them here is through places like this. I have to say that was quite a treat to get to see them actually feeding them today. Oh my goodness. Whenever they come up to the top to get the food, they just, it's kind of insane to watch, especially when they're feeding them in that volume. Now, if you get one of the little cups, you can see that on a smaller scale. Guys, this also explains a little bit more about the tops on these. It says that while we are here, we are getting to enjoy the fish. However, the birds also enjoy the fish. So they swoop down and can actually pop the little fish out. And so to protect the fish, this was also implemented. Okay, now that we finished up at the raceways, let's go up to the top and see what the tank that we were looking at from inside looks like from above. As you can see, that was pretty cool and a great way to wrap it up here at the Shepherd of the Hills Hatchery. I have thoroughly enjoyed our trip here, gotten a few new brain wrinkles, and seen some different things that we hadn't seen at other locations previous. It's great to come out to places like this because you do get those new brain wrinkles and you can share them with others as you're traveling as some cool little fun facts. Now, remember guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. And places like this, well, they're always a good time. So I encourage you guys to check them out. Till next time, guys. Bye!